The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview with a comprehensive look at the Borders clubs in action tomorrow. Robin Purdie's here as usual, and with a complete wipeout last weekend in Clubland, and of course Scotland playing Portugal, so no club rugby before that. Players are itching to get back on the pitch again, and as we'll find out during the course of the programme, this break has meant a lot of key injured players are back available again, and some of them looking very, very strong tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of strong squads out tomorrow, Stuart, and I've heard whispers that there's academy players being released as well. So yeah, there could be some ding dongs, and yeah, it seems like it's been a while since we've had some club rugby. Isn't it?
Yeah, we've had rugby because we've had the Scotland A game which we covered against Chile, and we've been at the internationals of course as well. But we've kind of like forgotten about the scene in Clubland, and look at the table, sort of nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed since the preview show last week. Of course, the top three are the top three. There's a band of teams, probably going to be in the hunt for that fourth playoff place, and there's those towards the bottom who are in a bit of bother. And
it's looking like Currie in fourth, Melrose in fifth at the moment, getting a little bit of daylight now between them and Hawick. But we mentioned last week about the change in conditions over the next few months, inevitably, and it will suit some clubs and not so much others. But with the weather being a leveller, that's certainly going to give the teams in the relegation spots a little bit of encouragement, because there is that X factor now going on.
Yeah, Marr at Fullerton, for example, on what might be a bit of a dirty wet day, they're going to be a proposition for anybody, so that could help them. Similarly Musselburgh as well. And yeah, if it's wet, if it's tipping a rain anywhere, then you're right, it's a leveller, because the skill levels come down a bit by everybody. But there are still teams towards the top. They are top of the ground teams, but they can also play in 6 inches of mud, you would imagine, and power their way over for a few tries. The Ayers and Heriots of this world. So yeah, but as it always does every season, the conditions, the weather will play a part. There could become a backlog of games for some teams as the weeks and months go on. So yeah, we're in this sort of interesting period now where they want to head into the break, the Christmas break, in a good frame of mind, and there's some big games coming up pre the festive season.
And of course, as well as we get towards the end of the season, and for instance, the teams that make the playoff and make them quite comfortably, who are then preparing for the playoff semi-finals, that can affect what team they put out, of course, as well, against lower teams.
That's a really good point, actually, and yeah, that's not something I'd considered yet for further down the track. But that's right. If Ayr and Heriots have already got home semi-finals banked with 3-4 games to go or whatever, then yeah, if they're playing teams down the table, then they might rest a few. Why would you not rest a few? And
because that's the ultimate goal.
Well, that's it. Keep your top guys fresh for the big occasions. But and then there'll be talk of sport and integrity and all that kind of stuff. But that's not on the teams that finish at the top. That's on if you don't want to be embroiled in that kind of controversy, if you like, and they've rested those guys to play against Marr, but these guys, they rested a few to play against Musselburgh, then don't find yourself at the bottom of the table.
And of course it happens in reverse as well. For instance, like Musselburgh went to Ayr, openly put out a weakened team to rest their best players for the really important games.
Oh yeah, and coaches all see it differently, and we said at the time with the Musselburgh one, I agreed with it. To be honest, why would you send Badenhorst down there to get injured for 6 weeks against Ayr when you've got winnable games coming up? So yeah, again, it's a good point. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out as we get towards the business end as well.
Let's talk about the games tomorrow, starting with the Premiership and the two matches kicking off at 2 o'clock. And our first commentary match of the day, it's at Millennium Park with Dale Clancy and Sam Matthews, and it's Currie against Ayr.
Yes, and I mentioned last week if there are this was going to be a big 2 weeks for Ayr, because they would have had Heriots away last week and they've got Currie away this week. Currie gave them a wee bit of a game, first game of the season down at Ayr, but Ayr have probably moved on since then. But Currie, of course, have got better as well. And I said last week, if there is one banana skin that will see Ayr maybe not lose, but not pick up the maximum 5 points, if we're looking at ex-club teams rather than ex-Super Rugby teams, this is the one where you feel that Ayr, if they are going to come unstuck somewhere along the line, it's this. And what you said about weather might come in at Currie as well. There's been levellers there from a weather perspective over the years. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's got the makings of a good, it's a good game. There'll be a big crowd at this one, and yeah, I probably do see Ayr shading it, but I sure it'll be a good occasion.
Currie, of course, a 5-match unbeaten run, giving them a huge boost, and they'll be licking their lips at this one. Home advantage as well.
Oh yeah, and they've shown in recent times that they can amass a vocal support and a partisan support at that. So yeah, they will be chomping at the bit, and Ayr are professional in the sense that they know exactly what they will be facing at Currie, and they'll be coming absolutely dialed in, I would imagine, as well. And a bit of a clash of the Titans. There's some big old lumps in those two teams, and there'll be some collisions for Dale and Sam to witness.
Certainly will be. Now, next up, it's Heriots against Melrose. Hugh Brown will be watching this one for us at Golden Acre, but we can hear from Melrose head coach Scott Wight ahead of this one.
Really looking forward to going up to Golden Acre, to be honest. First game of the season. Feels ages ago. So looking, I think we gave ourselves a pretty decent account of ourselves at the Green Yards opening day of the Premiership. But you know what, we're now 10 games into it, and boys are hugely looking forward to it. Hugely frustrated over the last 2 weeks not getting any rugby. So boys are keen to go. And squad wise, this week's we're in a real good kind of positive position, especially from first week of the season. You look at the likes, we've got Alan Ferry back fit, Dylan Coburn back fit. Obviously got a couple of Australians that have came in and been really helpful in terms of who we are. So pack wise this week will be we've had Jerry Blythe-Lafferty released from Edinburgh as well, which is excellent. So he's been fantastic. Every time he's come in, he's really adapted to what we're asking, and he really shows up well every week. So it's a great boost to have him this week. This week will be Jack Dobie, Jerry Blythe-Lafferty and Zen, Angus Weir, Angus Runciman in the middle row. In the back row will be Elliot Ruthven, Alan Ferry and Rory Lindsay, and then behind the pack the back line will remain exactly the same from Edinburgh Accies. So there's a good bit of continuity there. And then on the bench this week will be Logan Kirk, who's been fantastic over the last few weeks at hooker, filled a big gap that Ben's been injured, so he's actually put a lot of minutes together. So Logan Kirk, Will Ewen, Dylan Coburn, Ben McLean, and then we'll have Jimmy Cool and Kieran Clark on the bench. So it should be an exciting game of rugby, and one that we're really looking forward to, especially Heriot's being above us. There's still a huge room for improvement, which is the most exciting thing in terms of where we can go with the squad.
I'm trying to work out where he was recording that, in the garage or something?
I would say, knowing Scott's day job, that was smack bang in the middle of a building site. That sounded like a Jenny running in the background.
Guess the sound competition.
For my money. So yeah, I think he was doing the day job there. But yeah, this is another fixture with a good look about it. Now, if you just said to me, Stuart, pre-season, Melrose going to Heriot's, what do you reckon? I would have said if Melrose come away with anything better than a 60-point shellicking, then they've got a result there. But that's all gone out the window now. Scott's right, they were impressive at home, and they've moved on a lot since then. I mean, is it a silly thing to say that an ex-Super Series club in Melrose have been the surprise package of the season, given where they sit in the table and given how much they've improved since their mid-table obscurity, let's call it, was in Division 2 last year, or the second tier at least. So they've moved on immeasurably, and Al Ferry's back, Jerry Blythe-Lafferty comes in, he's been absolutely sensational for them when he's played this season. So this ain't a 60-point shellicking in favour of Heriot's now. I think Melrose will give Heriot's plenty to think about on Saturday. I do still see Heriot's coming out the right side of it, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Melrose, as they've done on occasion this season, came away with the spoils. It's got a close look about it.
It's a fortress at Golden Acre that hasn't been breached this season at all.
No, it's not. And Heriot's are a really, really good team. They've maintained a lot of personnel from the Super Series days. So they start this game as favourites. There's no two ways about it. But yeah, Ferry and Blythe-Lafferty coming into any pack in the division is going to bolster the pack. And Melrose have been going all right up front without them as well. So yeah, a lot could be, and it's always a case, it's every game of rugby, a lot could be won and lost up front in this one, but I can almost hear Scott licking his lips over the back, over and above that Jenny there.
And I think this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the programme, and we hear from the head coaches as well that everyone is dying to get back on the pitch again after 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, and I think part of that will be because they will have got bodies back, they will have got some of their top performers back from injury, and like I say, there's going to be some blood and thunder stuff, with some of the top men back this weekend.
So that's Heriot's against Melrose. That's a 2 o'clock kick-off. Hawick versus Edinburgh Accies, the first of the 4 3 p.m. matches for tomorrow. Accies have slipped down in recent weeks in 9th, just above Marr. Last time out, Hawick were heavily defeated at Ayr and have been dying to get back onto the pitch and right a few wrongs, as we can hear now from head coach of the Greens, Graham Hogg.
Saturday's match against Accies at home at Mansfield can't come quick enough. I think I said last week that the boys were champing at the bit and desperate to get back on the horse after their defeat. So you can imagine what it's been like with having that extra week off. The boys have been throwing it about a bit in training this week. They've been desperate to get into it, which is great for us coaches. Having to hold them back that little bit more. Obviously they're desperately keen to right the wrongs from Millbrae 3 weeks ago now. So this week in training's been excellent and we're really looking forward to the challenge that Accies bring us. Obviously that was the first game, first time round at the start of the season, so it's going to be a good gauge in terms of seeing how we've developed over the first round, bar minus obviously one game, just to see where we are. Obviously for us as a group of coaches, it's great to gauge, to see how far we've came on. We have came on and we're looking to put that into fruition this week and leading on to the following weeks for the remainder of the season. This week we're unchanged to what was supposed to take the field last week. Connor Sutherland back in the back row alongside Fraser Rennick and new dad Jay Linton. We've also got Hector Patterson in the squad as well. He's been released from Edinburgh, so it's great to have him and his experience, obviously at a young age, but obviously with 20s and professional experience. It's great to have him on board and be training with us this week. So we're really looking forward to the challenge. We'll see what happens come this week.
So Hawick, they're 6 points adrift of Melrose. Melrose, of course, in 5th. Hawick in 6th position. Of course, depending on what happens at Golden Acre and what happens at Mansfield Park, Hawick could be nipping at the heels again.
Yeah, and this definitely looks like a game that Hawick could win, of course, but they won't be taking it lightly. If they watch the tape of the Accies v Melrose game recently at the Greenyards, they'll have seen that Accies caused Melrose problems and on another day might actually have won that game, so they certainly won't be taking it lightly. But no, Hawick are in that, we spoke about it last week and the Melrose game wasn't on obviously, but it's a sort of 3 week period where they are very winnable games before they then head into Heriot's, Currie and Watsonians. So yeah, tomorrow against Accies and against Marr away next week, Hawick will be looking for a decent number of points and there's no reason at all that they can't get the points. Hector Patterson in the squad, Sutherland being back for me, massive. Rate him so highly. And yeah, Jay Linton back as well, and congratulations to him on the birth of his first child.
Yep, fantastic news for Jay there. He'll have an extra spring in his step, no doubt, tomorrow at Mansfield Park. Brackies, of course, they've been up, they've been down this season, but unpredictable.
Oh, very unpredictable, and I asked their coach Ian Berthinison about that before the Melrose game, and I would imagine there'll be a hard team to coach against because you don't know what they're going to bring on a Saturday. They could be poor. We've seen them be poor, like they were poor at Selkirk, but we've seen them be good, and they've had some handsome wins this season, particularly in the early part of the season as well. And they've got Looms back in the fold now. He's a very accomplished number 10, and if he's on song and bringing others around him into the game, then Accies can cause Hawick problems, there's no doubt about it, but I do have Hawick down in my card for this one.
Yeah, I think when Hawick are with their backs against the wall, particularly coming off the back of that big defeat at Ayr, they want to prove themselves and prove to their fans that they can certainly do the business and turn things around.
Oh yeah, and I think there'll be positives for teams going to play Ayr at Ayr this season, because that's you see where the bar is, you see what the benchmark is, and you take away the learnings from it, so you can turn negatives into positives in that regard. But yeah, I think they'll be absolutely chomping at the bit, the heavy reversal last time out and just the break like the other teams. They'll be absolutely desperate to get out there tomorrow.
Musselburgh versus Glasgow Hawks, one of these games where both sides will be targeting a win, and grateful no doubt that they aren't playing one of the top 4 teams this week.
Yeah, looking for a wee bit, it's almost like a bit of respite for all the teams that are not playing one of the big 3. And yeah, it's a winnable game for both these teams. Musselburgh, monumental victory for them last time out at Marr. That really put the cat among the pigeons, nowhere more so than down at Poinder, I guess. But yeah, they will be looking to pick up another victory against Glasgow Hawks, and I believe Musselburgh have got a few of the top dogs back as well, but Hawks have been better than some predicted this season, so that should be a good encounter, and it's a really difficult one to call. That pre Musselburgh's victory at Marr, I would have fancied Hawks, but tough one to call now.
Because it is very difficult, isn't it, when you've got a block of playing the likes of Ayr and Heriots, and they all seem to come together, don't they?
Seems to be, yeah.
And then you've got to get back into that winning sort of mindset once again, and it must be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine it is. That's where Selkirk are at the moment, because Selkirk had that extraordinarily difficult run of games the last 4 times out, but now they're into what on the face of it looks like easier fixtures. And I've said before, it's almost a case of how many bonus points here and there can you pick up in such a block of games, and the likes of Selkirk have done brilliantly in my opinion to pick up 5 in a block of 4 games, but other teams have came away with nothing. But you're right, you just have to bash your way through it, hope that you don't pick up too many injuries, and then when the sunnier uplands do come around, the teams around you in the league, you just have to try and maximise the opportunities there.
Because Selkirk have found themselves now slipping down the table. They're in 8th position now, albeit on the same amount of points as Hawick on 6th and Glasgow Hawks in 7th. And Selkirk are at home to Marr, another game where you have 2 sides in the bottom half of the table desperate for points for different reasons, both going into this with a W on their mind. Let's hear from Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson.
For this week, there's not too many changes. There's none at all to the starting team. Everybody's fresh, ready to go, trained really well Tuesday night, so no injuries there. A couple of changes to the bench. Ross Nixon comes back into the bench. We've got Olive Blythe Lafferty being available from Edinburgh this week, so he comes on. He takes his place on the bench. He'll get some game time at some point, and he's trained well with us this week. So everybody looking forward to the game. The guys now buzzing because missing the game last week due to the weather. This week's might be good for the weekend, so we're all looking forward to. I know it's going to be another tough game against Marr. They'll be screaming for points as we are now. So we're desperate to put in a big positive performance over the 80 minutes and then get the win. That's what we want. It's not about just getting points. We want to get the win, especially when we're at home. So we're excited for this game, and we're focused, working really hard to try and get over the line this week and get points on the board before Christmas.
And of course Selkirk, although they haven't been winning the games, they have been getting a lot of tries, and they're now 7 try bonus points for them, 1 losing bonus point. That all helps their total.
Oh, definitely. And you look at the back line and you think, well, of course they're always going to score tries. They've got brilliant half-backs, and they've got serious rugby players in the back 3 and in the centres as well, let's not forget. So if they get any sort of ball that back line, they're going to cause problems. And you talk about tries, Corey Tate's got a few, arguably the player of the season so far, or certainly one of them, and Fisher's got a try in him. And so Selkirk are a different proposition to what they were last season. The table reflects that. The bonus points that they've picked up in the tricky fixtures that they've had recently reflect that. I don't see that many teams going through that run of games and coming away with 5 points, to be honest. I think they've done incredibly well, but it now has to translate into victories against the teams in and around them. And they for me start as favourites against Marr, but Marr are not going to be pushovers. They'll be desperate. And I think in their squad last week for the game that never went ahead, I think they had 4 academy players released from Glasgow to play in the backs, including Aidan Cross. So it'll be interesting to see what team they turn out tomorrow. But Selkirk bringing in the other Blythe Lafferty, Ollie, as well. That's a bit of a fill up for them. He's a big old lump of a boy, and I've heard he's gone pretty well in training this week.
Well, let's refresh people's memories about the table. Ayr at the top, obviously, with their 50 points from 10 games. Can't do any better than that. Heriot's in second, 46. Watsonians in third, 39. Then a 7-point gap to Currie in 4th place, which is the other playoff position at the moment. Melrose in 5th with 30. Hawick in 6th with 24. Glasgow Hawks and Selkirk also have 24 in 7th and 8th. 9th place Accies on 21. And then there's a 6-point gap down to Marr, and that shows you how important that match is for Marr tomorrow at Philip Hall. They've got 15. Musselburgh have now climbed above Kelso. They have 12, and Kelso at the bottom with 11 points, although they have 4 losing bonus points, which is more than any other in the league, and that's a positive sign.
Yeah, it means that they've been in the contest, they've been in the fight, but yeah, tough assignment tomorrow for Kelso. we've spoken before about the fact that they have a lot of the teams in and around them at home in the second half of the season. So there's victories there, but they need to start chalking them up at some point. Again, said it all season, if a team that are going to Watsonians, go to Heriot's, going to Ayr, if they can come away with anything tomorrow, then absolutely brilliant. But yeah, there's going to be potentially some movement at the foot of the table tomorrow. Kelso, they'll be certainly looking for Selkirk to do them a favour and beat Marr, and there's that game between Musselburgh and Glasgow Hawks. Who do you want to win that if you're Kelso? It's a hard one. It's a hard one to call. So yeah, tough game for Kelso tomorrow, but yeah, they just have to go and give it their best shot, and there are more winnable games on the horizon.
And that game you're referring to is against Watsonians, third place for them at the moment at Marr's side. They've only lost once there this season, but of course Kelso did beat them at Poynter Park, so it's a double-edged sword, that one, isn't it? Because we just know that Watsonians will not want to lose both matches to Kelso. But let's find out what Director of Rugby at Kelso, Neil Hinnigan, has to say.
It'll be a really tough match. Watsonians are in very good form at the moment. Yeah, they're a formidable force, certainly at my side, so it's a big challenge for us to meet that standard. But we did play Heriot in our last match and we gave them a really good game, so going off the back of that, it should give us a bit of confidence that we can go to Watsonians and give it a really good go. Team-wise, it's pretty much the same as what was selected against Currie. One change with Nairn Moncrief now starting on the wing with Nick Stingle going to 9, so that is the only change in the starting lineup. There is one or two substitutes being swapped about, but that'll be confirmed as we go.
So can Kelso do a cheeky wee double over Watsonians?
They can. Is it likely? Unfortunately not. As the season's gone on, the victory they had against Watsonians looks a wee bit like what you could class now as a surprise victory. But as I said before, they just have to go and give it a good crack. Young Moncrief, he's a good player. He'll add something to the ranks, and yeah, it's the old free hit that we've spoken about so often. But yeah, looking at Kelso after tomorrow, Musselburgh home, Selkirk away, Hawks at home, Marr at home. There is 4 wins there. Selkirk away, of course, is very difficult, but they are 4 winnable fixtures. There's no Ayers, there's no Curries, etc. So see if you can get anything tomorrow. Back down the road if you can, brilliant, and then into that block of 4.
And that's why we keep seeing the topsy-turvy table, isn't it? Because, these clubs are getting these blocks of meeting the likes of Ayr and Heriot, Watsonians all in one go, and Currie added in there as well. And then they come out of that and, it's like a light at the end of the tunnel where they could really start climbing the table.
Yeah, I think so. And I think for Kelso, as mentioned, lots of the games that they mark on the card as winnable, they've got them at home for the remainder of the season, so they're not, for that reason alone, they're not dead and buried yet. But they probably, after tomorrow, they probably need 3 wins out of the next 4 games to give themselves a shot at it, I would imagine.
They're 10 points away from safety.
So yeah, 3 wins would do no harm at all, and the maths start to either take care of themselves or it starts to look a wee bit ominous. But I will know more about Kelso's fate in the next, at the end of the next 5 weeks, I would say.
All clubs get hit hard with injuries and stuff. Certainly, I think it's fair to say that Kelso probably have been hit the hardest of all the clubs. But they've had that 3 weeks off now as well. They had that good performance against Heriot, which they could have won. They ended up getting a losing bonus on that one. So not far away if they can keep people on the pitch now.
Yeah, that's it. That'll give them plenty of heart. Neil's right there. They gave Heriot a good run last time out, and you're right. They've been absolutely decimated in some regards by injuries. Borthwick at the start of the season was massive. He was the he was the blue ribboned signing coming from the Southern Knights there, and Terry Logan's out now as well. There's a couple of big old boys there. You're asking to compete against Curries and Watsonians and teams like that, and then you're shorting of the services of 2 year biggest lumps, and Melbourne was out for a bit earlier in the season as well. And so yeah, they've not had their problems to seek from an injury perspective, that's for sure.
And thank goodness Bruce McNeil hasn't been injured this season so far.
Well, some things never change. The durability of the man, it's quite exceptional.
National 1 now in 3 early starts in the division at 2 o'clock. First up, Dundee against Boroughmuir. Now this is really intriguing because it's 10th versus 9th, bottom of the table clash. Dundee 5 points adrift.
Yeah, must win probably or they'll both be viewing it as must win. Dundee certainly it's must win. They need to pick up some victories. So where better to start, or where more essential to start than the team directly above you, second bottom in the table. So it's a big old game that in terms of the context of both seasons. Boroughmuir have just looked a wee bit better in recent times. Jordan Edmonds in the ranks, etc. But Dundee have been racking up the tries as well. So again, tough one to call this, Stuart. But I do see Boroughmuir probably sharing it.
GHA versus Highland. GHA still unbeaten, but Highland playing with confidence and with some tight games involving GHA recently. Highland will certainly be out to make a statement there. Nothing to lose.
Oh yeah, absolutely nothing to lose going to the lead leaders, and Highland are a team that have absolutely picked up in recent weeks. They gave Gala a bit of a doing on the back of Gala running Stirling very close. So Highland had injuries at the start of the season as well, and they had some narrow defeats. So yeah, they'll be heading down to Glasgow tomorrow. Nothing to lose, and again Stirling just have one eye on that game. Is there a potential banana skin there for GHA? Can they maybe drop a point, not get 5 tries as they've done in recent times as well? So yeah, just adds to the intrigue of this division at top and bottom.
Also at 2 o'clock, Glasgow Accies at home to second place Stirling County. Could this be a banana skin for Stirling?
Yeah, I think so. If we're looking at the table, Glasgow Accies are the third best team in the league at the moment, and second place Stirling are heading there tomorrow. So I said about Stirling having one eye on GHA v Highland. It'll work in reverse. GHA will have one eye on this very much. Not too far away at Glasgow Accies, and hoping that Stirling, if they don't win the game, might not get 4 tries or whatever. So that's where we are with the top 2 in this division now. It could come down to just bonus points at the end of the day, and as I mentioned last week, as daft as it sounds, because GHA have won all the games all this season, but they've dropped points, Stirling have made up ground in recent times due to bonus points. So yeah, it's all happening there. But yeah, you're right, banana skin potentially there for Stirling tomorrow, but I do see them coming through it.
Could this be the last chance saloon for Glasgow Accies?
No, I think it's a 2-horse race now. If they got to 42 points, but no, I see the top 2 having just too much as the season goes on. I think Glasgow Accies will be comfortably in third, and I think there'll be daylight between them and whoever comes fourth. But I don't see them getting back into the shake-up now. They've lost 3 games. They'd almost need to go unbeaten between now and the end of the season. I fancy Stirling to shade it when the prizes are being handed out come the end.
Yeah, I just keep harking back to that fixture where they went to GHA and we were all expecting a tight game, and they got 60 points put on them.
Yeah, they did. That was the shock of the season, other than maybe Melrose at Currie right at the start there. But Stirling it was almost a wake-up call for them, and they've got their act together since then, and they have home advantage next weekend in the big one. Oh,
we must mention, of course, that Jed win, that comeback, that was pretty high up there, wasn't it, against Glasgow Accies?
Oh yeah, that's the...
Was it 33-5 down?
Yeah, something like that at half-time. So if we're talking about the surprise of the season, if we isolate that half of rugby and say, well, that result's potentially the surprise of the season, given the whole Jed were
There's been a lot, though, be honest, hasn't there? There's been some amazing results.
Yeah, there hasn't. It's just added to this season as a whole, and you almost yearn for it to be the same next season, but it's not, because it's going to be back to 1 up, 1 down. These top 2 divisions and the third tier as well, with 2 down and less teams in the division, there's just jeopardy all over the place.
Well, let's have a little look at our big local event at Riverside Park. Jed-Forest against Gala. Jed now in 4th, Gala in 5th. Gala won the match at Netherdale between the two, and now they meet again in Jedburgh. We'll hear from head coach of Gala, Euan Robbie, shortly. But first, looking ahead to this from a Jed point of view, here's Jed head coach Stuart Johnson.
It's a big game for both clubs, really, because whoever wins this will move them a little bit further away from that relegation battle that's going on, which has really got 7 teams in it at the moment. In terms of us, obviously we just want to overturn that defeat we got at Netherdale. It was a close game. There was only a few points in it, but as I said at the time, it wasn't our best performance, and we're performing a lot better now. obviously the last couple of games we've scored nearly 90 points. So if we can bring that attack shape, I know we can score points, and we just need to. As I've always said, we need to get defence better. We just leak too many easy tries, which we obviously can't afford to do against Gala on Saturday. They've got a really good defence as well. They don't leak many points, so I think it'll be tight. In terms of team-wise, it'll be very similar to the squad that was announced for Boroughmuir. Pretty much got everybody back fit now. Big bonus, Robbie Douglas is back. So Robbie will come onto the bench. Hopefully Big Jack is back at tight head. So our only injury at the moment is Gregor Young, and he is slowly getting better, and hopefully we'll see him back, if not before Christmas, certainly afterwards. So looking forward to Saturday. As I say, it'll be a tough game. The good news is we are pretty much full strength, so we've got no excuses on Saturday.
Very tough game against a Jed side that are going really well. They've had a couple of good results, and they're scoring points. Fully expecting a physical game. Jed last time never gave up on this. Netherdale, they kept battling away, and you're always going to get that, especially when you're playing Jed at Riverside Park. And in games like this, it's important that, players apply themselves correctly. When they see a lot of passion and, commitment from our guys on the pitch. We've had a really, really good 4 sessions, even though because of weather last week we took training indoors. A real positive for us is having Angus Dunn back. He will start, and along with Callum Pate will come back into the starting lineup. 2 guys that are really looking forward to getting back into some physicality, and I'm sure they'll show it in the pitch along with some of our other players. We travel hopefully with more or less a full squad. A couple of injuries still at the moment, but we're not far away from that. But at the end of the day, Border Derby will take passion, commitment, both teams. It's a big challenge, the league position for us. If we can get a result, it puts us above Jed, and vice versa. It might create some space for them if they do it. So it'll be fully expecting 2 passionate teams, a physical match. Our boys will be up for it. No 2 ways about that. Can't wait to get back going, get ourselves down to Riverside and get on that paddock on Saturday.
Well, last time out, Gala didn't travel very well at all to Highland. They were 54 points down before they woke up and scored 19 points, nearly got the try bonus, to be fair. But travelling been an issue for them, there's no doubt about that. However, this isn't too far to go.
Just going to say that it's been a massive issue for them, their away form, but this is not a journey for all intents and purposes, so that it's one of the factors that makes this one quite hard to call. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. To be honest, this is what it's all about. It'll be dark, border derby, both
You're
clubs.
licking your lips.
I am a bit actually. Both clubs, desperate for points. And really interesting there, what Stuart said right at the start of his piece there. The first thing he mentioned was about avoiding relegation. Now, Jed sitting 4th, and that's actually really refreshing to hear it, because he's being honest. If he comes on there and says, right, we're looking up the table now, we're going to try and hunt down GHA, then you take that with a pinch of salt. So all they're concerned about, Jed, Gala, Bigger, Peebles, them all are just getting as many points as possible. And for me, if one of these teams tomorrow can come away with 5 points, then they're not quite safe yet, but they're within touching distance. So for that reason alone, it's a massive game. If Jed can get to 33 points tomorrow, for example, then they are just about home and host.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier in the season about what was that mythical safe points, and of course Gala would have been relegated in the bottom 3 last year on 39. Ian Hurd, of course, who's now with Jed, he put a different slant on it, because he was talking about the fact that you can't really rely on getting points against GHA, Stirling County and Glasgow Accies. So he thinks it possibly a little bit less than that, but certainly if you get to 40, then that would be a great target.
Oh, definitely. 40 year home and host, and yeah, both of these teams can get into the 30s tomorrow, so with a bit of rugby still to be played, you'd imagine when they're into the 30s that they'll accumulate enough to find themselves safe. But Boroughmuir have picked up, and Highland have picked up, and Peebles can beat anybody on their day, and Bigger can beat anybody just about on their day, so there's still plenty of intrigue left in this division. But yeah, big old game tomorrow.
And you'll be there.
I will indeed. Looking forward to it.
I think you are, no doubt about that. High scoring one, do you think, or a war of attrition?
Well,
It's going to be raining, apparently.
It's going to be, yeah, well, Jed can certainly score tries, and Gala can score tries as well, more so at home. They can be leaky away. Jed can be leaky home and away as well, as we've seen. So, yeah, could be one where defence could be optional tomorrow, or it could just be classic border derby 12-10 type stuff. It's hard to predict from all sides.
Well, the other match is Peebles versus Biggar. 3 o'clock kick-off at the Guyts. Another derby, of course, between these two teams. Peebles currently with the bragging rights, having won against Biggar early in the season. Here's head coach Graham Patterson.
So yeah, pretty frustrating last weekend with no rugby due to the weather conditions, and even more frustrating how quickly it disappeared in a 24-hour period. So it's about looking forward now to these last 3 games before the Christmas break, which will shape how our season goes. 3 teams that are very much round about us and very much in our sights as we sit in that precarious position of 8th, with a couple of those teams above us and one below it. So we're looking to put some daylight between the ones below us and again claw back into the ones that are above us and hopefully lift ourselves above them. And the first challenge that we face on Saturday against Biggar at home, it couldn't really come any bigger than our local rivals. We had a very entertaining tussle up at Hartree Mill earlier on in the season. Good points from that for us, but we felt that there was a lot of things that we didn't do well. Biggar obviously put us on quite a bit of pressure in terms of some areas of the game, but we just didn't feel the performance was quite there. So that is a challenge for us on Saturday, is to get that performance out. Highly unlikely that any team is going to have an 80-minute... We always talk about these 80-minute performances. Now, no team can dominate for 80 minutes of the game, possibly apart from South Africa at the moment. But in terms of at this level, there is always going to be swings and roundabouts, ebbs and flows of the game, and who has possession, who doesn't have possession, who dominates in certain areas, in the contact, in the set piece, the kick and battle. I don't think there's very much between most of these sides in this league that can say that anybody is going to have that 80-minute performance. So it's about us getting 60 minutes of dominance, and that should see most teams through, as long as you take your opportunities when they come to you. And that is something that we've been working on in training these last couple of weeks, is about execution under pressure, and imprinting on guys' minds what our plans are, what our selection should be in certain areas, and how we go about scoring points, but applying pressure to their defensive line, and also being able to relieve pressure from ourselves as well. That is going to be a key element of Saturday's game, that upfront battle. We have a blend in there that will hopefully see us through and make those correct decisions, and we trust in those guys, as coaches trust in those guys to go out and make those right selections. And it's about doing that consistently. We have a pretty consistent selection, which will help as we look forward to taking on the challenge of Biggar. In terms of selection, still got a few guys out, sort of medium-term injuries. Euan Murray and Kel McKeever with their shoulder/arm injuries. Cammy Pye's picked up a kind of knock on his ankle as well, having just come back into the squad. So disappointing for him. However, we still feel that we have a pretty strong squad. Starting, we've just rotated slightly, with Lewis Copeland coming on to start at tight head prop. Rory Smith and William Napier comes onto the bench as well in that other front row berth, and they will bolster the pack at some point during the game. Everything else is as selected for the last outing, which didn't go ahead against Glasgow Accies on the pitch, so a really settled back line. Archie Winnington and Ingram will hopefully this week get his first start for the club. We're really impressed by Archie and his impact at training and in the games that he's played so far. So really looking forward to seeing him get his first start for the club and push on from there. Neil Pate comes on to the bench as well as the backs cover. The club will be buzzing. It's a very big day in terms of sponsors, one of the biggest days that the club has in terms of fundraising, so we're really hoping for a really big crowd to cheer everybody on, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a good opposing crowd as well from Biggar to offer their support as well.
Extra significance on this one because Peebles in the relegation zone.
Yeah, definitely, and he's right there. It's a massive game for a number of reasons, and Biggar will bring. You'd imagine a few people down to this one again. Another place where it's going to be a great occasion tomorrow. But yeah, on the rugby field, massive game, because both these points, same as Jed and Gala, albeit Jed and Gala are a wee bit further up the table, all these teams want as many points as possible against all the teams around them, because you mentioned before, you're not going to get that many from GHA and Stirling and Glasgow Accies. So to win these games is absolutely imperative. And yeah, Peebles will have had, they'll have had this one marked on the calendar since the start of the season for the, for the derby factor anyway. But yeah, this is a must-win game, I would say. And is it a game that Peebles can win? Absolutely, it is. They beat Biggar away early in the season, no mean feat, and I fancy them to pick up the points tomorrow.
And of course, they could go above Biggar and above Highland if the other results go their way.
Oh yeah, and it's going to, over the coming weeks, it's going to be like this at this part of this division. It's going to be, you jump up a couple of places, you come down a couple of places, you jump up one, you come down one. And it's just about amassing as many points as you can to get towards that 35 to 40 mark, and then you can start to sleep easy a wee bit.
Rugby snakes and ladders.
It is a bit. It is a bit, because you can go on a run against teams around you and not face GHA and Stirling, and then you can face GHA and Stirling in 2 or 3 weeks, and you're a couple of other teams around you have leapfrogged you.
And we hear this a lot as well, don't we, about clubs aiming at little blocks of matches, and this is like the first block for them. They've also got Boroughmuir away from home, and then they welcome Gala to the Gates as well, which is one of the games we'll be covering in a few weeks' time. But it's so important, isn't it, to win these little battles?
Oh yeah, Biggar at home, Boroughmuir away, Gala at home, Highland away. All winnable, all losable. Massive 4 weeks.
Well, let's have a look at the table then in National 1. So we've got GHA at the top with 47 points, unbeaten, but dropped 3 tri-bonuses. Stirling County in second spot. They've got 10 tri-bonuses, so they can't do better than that. But they did lose, of course, heavily at GHA. But they're now only just 1 point behind on 46. Glasgow Accies, 9 points adrift with 37. And then another 9 points down to Jed-Forest in 4th position. They're on 28. Gala 5th, 26. Biggar in 6th with 24, Highland 7th, 23, currently out of the relegation zone for the first time this season. That means Peebles are in there in 8th position with 20 points, having won 3 of their 10 games so far. Boroughmuir in 9th, they're on 16, and Dundee with that 1 victory, 11 points at the bottom of the table. Well, National 2, Berwick are away to second place Stuart's Melville. A repeat of their win in the National League Cup against the Inverleith side would certainly be very welcome for head coach of Berwick, and that of course is Paul Pringle.
We know what Stuart's Melville are about, and they'll know what we're about, having already faced them twice this season at Scremerston. First game, certainly they kind of put us away fairly easily in the second half. The last game, I thought we certainly adapted well and made a good account of ourselves and won that game in the cup fixture. So yeah, we know it will be a really difficult task. They're strong in the forward, strong at the line out. Their backs are pretty dangerous when they get good ball and wide space. And we're aware, obviously, that their pitch is quite a wide pitch. So we picked our squad to suit, but at the same time, we want to focus on imposing our game on other teams, opposed to having to react solely to what they bring. Hopefully, it's a case of let them worry about us. So in terms of squad selection this week, we're fortunate enough to have Jock Wilson back in, so he'll come back into hooker, which allows Ryan Wilson then to slip back into number 8, where he certainly prefers and excels at. We have Rafa Kraminski. Unfortunately, he's away this weekend, so he'll drop out the squad. But that just allows an opportunity for Callum Sim to come in for his first start for the club. Callum's a young 18-year-old back row player. He's been showing up really well in training and for the twos. So yeah, it's a case of, for us certainly, if you're good enough, you're old enough. For me, if he can front up in training against some of the big lads we've got, then he can take that into a Saturday and we'll not have any concern. So really excited to see what he can bring, and we're certainly hoping that he's going to be another Stuart Farnaby, just a good strong ball carrier who fits into the team well with great work ethic. In other news, we have Jack Dalrymple will come back in on the wing, with Jordan Jackson will be on the bench. He's just coming back from an ankle injury, but it's good to have him back. And we also have Captain Ali Grieve will be on the bench. So we've got a real kind of impact there, and we hope to use that to our advantage. So all in all, yeah, you know, it's been a wee while, but we've been keeping training numbers up, and that's credit to the lads, and we've been, you know, working on really specific things. So we would hope to take those from Tuesday night's training certainly into the game this weekend. Fingers crossed we get the right result.
Well, Berwick certainly need to get away from that bottom four, with 2 going down this season. Preston Lodge on 14, Newton Stewart 16. Both Berwick and Lasswade have 17, with a worrying 6-point gap to GHK and Falkirk.
Yeah, it's a tough game tomorrow. They've done well against Jumel, as Paul said there, this season, but it's a different proposition away from home. And said last week, for me, looking at the remaining fixtures for Berwick, it's a case of win the 3 home games imperative, and anything that you can pick up away from home is a bonus, because they've got 3 winnable ones at home. PL next week, Newton Stewart a couple of weeks after, a couple of games after that, and then GHK is the remaining game. So those are absolutely winnable at home, and they're winnable with bonus points. So yeah, anything coming away from Stewmel tomorrow would literally be a bonus.
And of course GHK won at GHK, didn't they? And they won at Newton Stewart.
Yeah, so and they've now got those teams to come to Scrammerston. Everybody knows that's not an easy place to go. So yeah, Berwick in a reasonable place, a wee bit like Kelso in the sense that, you know, they've got winnable games and at home for the remainder of the season.
But you still got to get them in the bank.
But you got to get them in the bank, and I suppose in some regards it brings an added sense of pressure as well, if you want to look at it like that.
Other National League 2 games tomorrow, all of them at 2 o'clock, are Falkirk versus Kirkcaldy, Lasswade against Gordonians, and Preston Lodge v GHK. So that's 4th against 3rd with Falkirk and Kirkcaldy, Lasswade against Gordonians, 7th versus 1st, Preston Lodge 9th, GHK 5th.
Yeah, Berwick will be wanting a favour tomorrow from Gordonians at Lasswade and GHK at Preston Lodge, I would suggest.
And so we come to our East League teams, including a very interesting East Bowl semi-final taking place. And with a roundup, here's Euan Welsh.
The East League Roundup with Euan Welsh.
Hello and welcome to another roundup of East League action, as we take a look at the fixtures involving local East League sides this weekend. After a few weeks break through internationals and Stormbert, there's 2 games to look forward to, with an East League 2 game and an East Bowl Borders derby clash to cover, so let's dive right in. Starting in the East Bowl, Hawick host Eddleston at the Volunteer Park, as the pair battle it out for top spot in their pool. Lindeen will be looking to get revenge following the recent defeat to Eddleston in the league, whilst the visitors will be eager to get their bowl run off to the best of starts. With an update from the Lindeen camp, we can hear from Kieran Murphy, but first up is Eddleston's Cammy Hill.
Our first game of the bowl, obviously Lindeen have played their game against Dun, so it's effectively a cup final. If Lindeen get the win, they go through, and if we can get the win, it takes us down to playing Duns to see if we can progress. So quite a bit on the line this weekend, and we know it's going to be a tough match. 4 or 5 weeks ago we played them in the league, came away with I'd say a pretty convincing 33 points to 10 win. In that match, our defensive effort for the first 20 minutes was unbelievable. We hardly touched the ball in that time. Lindeen had a lot of possession, trying to create opportunities, but just couldn't quite break us down defensively. Obviously, moving on from that, our attack started to get a bit of flow. Lindeen possibly tired a little bit, and obviously we managed to start getting some points on the board. But it'll be a totally different story over at Hawick. They're going to be looking for a bit of revenge, obviously, on their home patch. That pitch will probably benefit them more. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a really good weekend. Squad-wise, we're pretty much at full strength. From the squad that played them last time out, there's 2 lads missing, but obviously the depth we've got being able to pull players and switch players about positional wise, there's no worry on that.
A massive game for us. Obviously, after defeating the league, we're kind of on the back foot a little bit in that competition, needing Eddleston to slip up to get back in contention. It's a massive chance for us to make the East final. A win would secure that, winning the group after beating Duns the other week in a great game. Eddleston, we know what they're about. They're a solid side. Their defence was really good, and we played them away in the league. It was absolutely solid. We just need to find ways to break through that and kind of change up our game a little bit, because they're a very good side, and obviously their league status being at the top of the table shows that. We have a few boys back. Graham Colville probably the most noticeable, and the squad still to be finalised, and I'm pretty sure they'll be the same. They'll have boys in, they'll have boys out. Just what it is at this level, kind of boys coming in and out all the time. But it should be a really good game, and obviously if we win, we make the East final, and that has to be something to strive for, because if we make that, then we should have a great chance of winning that, no matter who we're playing. And obviously the target is there, obviously getting to the semis of the Scottish. The boys should be up for it, and hopefully we get a good result. But it should be a great game.
The other game of interest is in East League 2, where Hawick Harlequins host Royal High at Willet Lodge Park. The Quins will be looking to bounce back from their last league game, which was a heavy defeat against D.O.R. Royal High are a decent side, but the Borderers will see this as a good opportunity to get back to winning ways, especially on home soil. Previewing the game is Quins captain Liam Graham.
We return home for the first time in a few weeks, hoping to welcome back a few players who were unavailable for the away games. Really hoping to kind of restart our season after a good patch, and then kind of went off the boil the last couple of games, facing two very tough teams in Dunbar and Foresters in the Cup. Really look forward to the next 3 games, 2 of them at home, so really trying to target them 2 as games that we could hopefully win and boost us back up the league again. We know that we're under no illusion this will be a hard game. Royal High winning their last 3 games really look to be a good side in this league. Really trying to push so we can try and cement ourselves in the top 3 coming towards the end of the season. Hopefully, as I say, trying to welcome back a few more players, trying to get some depth on the bench after the last few weeks and not being able to rely on maybe as many forwards as we would like on the bench. But yeah, really trying to stamp down a top 3 contendership for the league this season.
And finally, there is no game for neither Langham nor Gala IM this Saturday, so that rounds up this week's East League action. And as always, best of luck to all the Borders teams competing.
And that's it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 1:30 tomorrow for Currie v Ayr from Maleny Park. Then we cross for second half commentary of the 3 o'clock kick-off between Jed-Forest and Gala, followed by a comprehensive roundup of all the matches in the top 3 divisions of Scottish Club Rugby. Remember, you can listen to Rugby Radio at rugbyradio.co.uk, also on the homepage of bordersrugby.net, and also our ex-Twitter feed at Borders Scores. That will bring you the latest score updates. But for now, from Robin and myself, a very good night.
The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.